The world is afflicted by death and decay, but the wise do not grieve, having realized the nature of the world. Buddha. To gain a complete view of things, the Buddhist teachings and practices must be understood in the context of a Buddhist view of existence. The three marks of existence are impermanence, anicca, not self, dukkha, suffering, anatta. 1. Impermanence. The first of the three marks of existence can be understood as a rough equivalent of our modern saying that the only constant is change. In the Buddhist worldview, this applies to every single thing in the universe. Everything is changing, even stars and rocks, though we usually fail to appreciate the change that is occurring all around us. Human beings often believe they want all good things, situations, achievements, our health, relationships, to be permanent. We create something, we want it to stay that way, and we believe it should stay that way. We become upset when things change, because it seems to violate our fundamental sense of how things should be in the world. It is not fair that the things we enjoy and count on do not last. Due to this perception, we experience suffering. Buddhists believe that once we recognize that impermanence, change, is the true nature of everything we experience, we begin to experience the world and our lives differently. Our suffering is lessened when we understand and accept that change is just how everything is. It is difficult to not want the things that bring us joy to continue, but we are able to better let go and cope with change once we are able to recognize the truth of impermanence. 2. Not self. The second of the three marks, not self, can seem less obvious than impermanence. Not self, however, is simply an extension and application of the idea of impermanence to the area of who we are as individuals. One way to think of not self is see it as a teaching that shows us the limits of ourselves and who we believe we are. For example, it is important to recognize that we are not the same as our bodies. Of course, we identify with our bodies in many ways, for better or worse. However, if we get a haircut, we are still the same person. If we break a tooth, we are still the same person. If we lose a limb or an organ, we may relate to our bodies differently, but this physical change does not change the essence of who we are. Similarly, we have beliefs about ourselves such as, I am a man, I am a woman, I am 40 years old, etc. These ideas seem to imply a sense of permanence about characteristics we associate with these labels. However, as with physical changes, we see that, in fact, none of these aspects of ourselves are truly definitive of who we are. We think, feel, and change constantly. Becoming too attached to certain beliefs about who we are, or are not, can be a source of suffering, because it blinds us to the truth of continuous change. At a biological level, we are also ever-changing. Our cells and physical processes work, adapt, and build. We become more mature, stronger, wiser, older, and then begin to decline physically. Yet none of this is permanent. None of it defines us. We can recognize the limits of these ways of thinking of ourselves and rather observe existence through this new lens of truth. This allows us to free ourselves from many sources of suffering. 3. Suffering. The third mark of existence is very closely related to the first of the Four Noble Truths. Suffering is a part of existence as a human being. Each of us suffer as an individual, and those around us are also suffering, each in his or her own way. Human beings spend much of their time trying to avoid recognizing that they suffer. They want to persist in their beliefs that happiness and achievement can be attained and made permanent. In spite of evidence to the contrary all around us, it can seem that it is easier to chase permanence than to accept the impermanence of everything. It can be profoundly disorienting to realize that the foundations of your efforts in life are not what you believed they were,